Oakland A's are leaving Oakland. Okay, maybe not for real, but it's starting to look like a real possibility. What's up, guys? It's Ian. Make sure to first like and subscribe to this channel, help grow it. I really appreciate you guys for watching and everything. The Oakland A's are leaving Oakland. That's kind of crazy considering they're one of the most storied franchises in all of baseball. 7 World Series titles, I think it is. One of the most historic teams, some of the greatest players, Ricky Henderson, Raleigh Fingers, Eckersley, Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco, I could go on. A lot of them have played most of their games in Oakland, considering they haven't been in Philadelphia in forever. But they're looking to do what Golden State did, the Warriors going to San Francisco, the Raiders moving from Oakland to Las Vegas. They are sick of their ballpark, and it looks like, Oakland is not going to be able to give them a new stadium. It looks really unlikely. They'd have to have taxpayers pay for it. The Oakland A's are already the cheapest team in baseball, so it's probably going to be hard for them to come up with the money for a new stadium in Oakland. Looking like a real possibility they leave. So without further ado, I'd like to give you the 5 cities that are the most likely to get the A's, the best suited to get the A's, and I'll tell you why and maybe what the drawbacks are. So, starting at number 5, we've got Vancouver. This city really is not an American professional sports city. They have the Vancouver Canucks and hockey, which is the least popular of the 4 major sports. So the plus is that, the Oakland A's would have virtually no competition. It's going to be super easy for them to, play in Canada. Again, it'll be cool. Toronto will have another team. Montreal, obviously, is gone now. It's also easy because it's on the West Coast. It's right above Washington. There would be no need for a realignment in the divisions. That means you could have the Vancouver A's still in the same division with Seattle, the Angels, Houston, and the Rangers. Downside to this, though, is that you're going to have to share broadcasting with Seattle, which is already not the easiest thing in the world because neither of those teams would probably be the most marketable. It is a small city. It doesn't have a ton of funding, and it's essentially just not one of those big cities. So this will be kind of an interesting spot. It's a beautiful city. Definitely gets cold there, but you'd have a cool rivalry with Seattle, cool rivalry with Toronto, another Canada team. Seems like the least likely, though, out of all these cities. That's why number 4, I've got Charlotte. Growing like crazy. Seriously, in the U.S. Census, they're one of the biggest growing cities since 2010. That makes a lot of sense. They've been looking like they want to get a professional baseball team. They already have the Panthers, Hurricanes, got the Hornets. Yeah, they're irrelevant. No wonder I couldn't think of them. But anyways, this team could also possibly go to Charlotte, where it would make a lot of sense for those reasons. The only drawbacks, the biggest, would be realignment. You would possibly, in my assumption, if you're going to do any realignment, you move Kansas City out of the Central and into the West to match kind of what the NFL does as far as that goes, having the Chiefs in the AFC West. That's a big drawback. Aside from that, Charlotte's still kind of a smaller market, and there's huge competition with basketball, football, hockey. They do have a good AAA team, though. So, there's certainly a demand for baseball. It's certainly a city to watch out for. I've always seen Charlotte more as an expansion city franchise than moving a team on the West Coast there. Number 3 is Nashville. This is a personal favorite of a lot of people's, and I can totally see why. I've been to Nashville. It's super cool. Really cool city, don't get me wrong. Country music, big culture, growing like crazy, very trendy. People love it. There's a demand for entertainment there. But again, realignment and a lot of competition for a market that's not very big. That's the biggest drawback, is the realignment, which, obviously, I'm going to assume we push Kansas City into the West. Messes things up a little bit, but essentially 2 small market teams go. I'm curious to see how Nashville would shake out. This is also another city that I think would be primed for a expansion team, not necessarily a realignment team. All right, so now we're going to move on to the top 2, the 2 favorites, the 2 cities I really see the Oakland A's moving to eventually. I seriously just don't see it working out with Oakland. Number 2, Las Vegas. Now, this one has been floated around as the favorite. There's been rumors about the Oakland A's wanting to move to Las Vegas, and it makes perfect sense. They follow the Raiders, who literally played at the Coliseum, 2 years ago? It makes perfect sense. There's no need for a realignment. NHL's actually really proven that Vegas is not just a market to have a sports team, kind of as a joke. It's like a real city. There's crazy demand for the Golden Knights. So, it would lead you to think that the Oakland A's possibly could have success there, right? Right? Anyways, Las Vegas makes perfect sense. Tourist city. You're obviously going to have to put it in a dome. It's too hot. It's like the Arizona Diamondbacks. You can't play them outside, but this makes a ton of sense. What's the biggest drawback? It's not the greatest TV market, because you're really just broadcasting to sand dunes outside of the city of Vegas. So that's the biggest concern. They would have to kind of compete, I guess with Arizona and LA, which they already wouldn't. But to me, Las Vegas would make perfect sense. Tourists, Golden Knights have proven it works. And it's more than just a gimmick. It's a legitimate city. Las Vegas is more than just gambling nowadays, with sports gambling, growing everywhere else in the country. Before we get to number one, I'd like to give you a couple of honorable mentions. The number one most honorable mention is Montreal. I'm sorry, Montreal, you did not make it to number one. You really don't feel like a city that makes it for an MLB team. I think we love the idea of the Montreal Expos, but outside of that, there's really just no market for an MLB team. I could be wrong, but I just don't see that. Even I think Vancouver I would put ahead of Montreal, hence why I did. It just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. It didn't make sense clearly for the Expos, and that's why they moved into Washington. And the other city I really wanted to put was like Mexico City. I just have heard from Rob Manfred, not personally, I haven't heard from him. I don't know, maybe I have though. You never know. It seems like the MLB is not ready to move into Mexico yet. It seems like if they're going to go anywhere internationally, it would be into Canada. But I still think one day a team in Mexico would be pretty awesome, and I wish the MLB would actually move quicker with it because it would be a perfect spot to put the A's. Without further ado, though, I give you the number one city the Oakland A's would relocate to, and it is Portland. Portland has been floated as the number one destination for a realignment, expansion MLB city for like the last 5 years. They have seemed like the favorite. You've got $1.3 billion ready to be committed to a stadium, 40 acres of land, really not a lot of competition. I mean, yeah, you've got Seattle and you might have San Francisco, but Oakland was the other competition if you were going to do an expansion team. And if the Oakland A's move into Portland, takes away all the competition, what's the problem? You probably need a little bit more on the investing side in this thing to make the stadium happen, but it really doesn't seem like a big issue. Portland, another big city, a lot of granola. I'm not sure how well it would work. You've already got the Portland Trailblazers and the Timbers, which MLS soccer is really going to take the backseat, obviously, to baseball. So you're really competing against a basketball team. Makes a lot of sense. Portland's a growing city. It's huge. I definitely think the MLB could survive there. If it doesn't happen with Oakland, they would be like the number one team I'd look at in relocation, expansion, and stuff to get a team. So those are my top 5 teams I think the Oakland A's will relocate to. What are yours? I'd like to hear where you guys think the A's will go. Sound off in the comments. Sound off on where you want to see them. But also make sure to just drop a subscribe, drop a like. Be ready for more baseball content. Thank you.